Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Y'all, by the time you hear this, our show in, where the heck am I? Sullivan, Illinois, will officially be open. We will have opened yesterday, which is actually today for me, as I am recording this on Thursday. And pretty exciting to have, I think, my 23rd production of $1 Million Quartet under my belt. So it's been going well. In my time off here, I have already visited the Scoville Zoo, which is in Decatur, an accredited zoo that I had not really heard much about, but they have a red panda, and it's a great little zoo. I really like it there. I've also been to Mesker Park Zoo. If you see my post from yesterday, you'll see that I got to see their bintlets there. And then I took quite the drive to go to Henry Vilas Zoo in Wisconsin, where I got to be reunited with my good red panda friend, Bandit. Now, if you follow along on Instagram, you probably already know this, but Bandit is a very special red panda, the one that I have bonded with the most and spent the most time with back when he was at the Columbus Zoo. And then the SSP sent him off to Madison, Wisconsin, and I've been very sad that he's been there and I've not been there. But now he's been there and I've been there, and we got to hang out, and I got to give him some apples and grapes, and it's hard to say exactly whether, an animal like that remembers you, especially when it's been, I think, about 16 months since I last saw Bandit. However, without going into too much detail, let's just say that I got an inkling that Bandit was pretty darn excited to see me and not just for the treats. So that was very meaningful to me, and I'm grateful to Tara, the keeper at Henry Vilas Zoo, who made that happen, and to Christy Nuss, Bandit's former keeper at the Columbus Zoo, who made the contact and set that up. And y'all, I got goosebumps as soon as I saw that perfect little face. It was so good to see my buddy again. In other news, I mentioned online that 2 weeks ago, we had our first ever week with over 5,000 downloads for the podcast. That, for a non-celebrity podcast, is huge. I am so proud of that, and I'm so thankful that y'all are here and a part of this. And then last week, we had over 5,300. So, the downloads just keep coming. People keep showing up, and I'm grateful that y'all are here. If you haven't taken the time to share this podcast with your following, please do. It really makes a difference. I can literally see, someone in an area shares, and then my listenership in that area goes up. I can actually watch that happen. And also, it really helps podcasts if you leave ratings and reviews. So, especially if you listen on Apple Podcasts, take the time to not just give it the hopefully 5-star rating, but write a review. It can be quick, it can be easy, but every single time that somebody takes the time to do that, more people will find the podcast. It's all algorithmic, and I don't really understand it, but I do know that is a big part of it. So if you could take the time to do that, I'd really appreciate it. And on other apps, if you listen on Spotify or whatever, a lot of times you can leave a rating. A lot of them don't have the ability to leave a review, and that's fine. The ratings still really help. So thank you for all of that and for helping this podcast grow, sharing the stories of the amazing work done at good accredited zoos and aquariums and conservation organizations is really important to me. And it's something that right now I can only do to a wider audience if y'all help that wider audience come in. So thank you all for being a part of that. And of course, there are other ways that you can help as well. One of those is that Zoo News each week is crowdsourced. So if you see any stories that you think are Zoo News worthy, go ahead and tag me in them at Rossifari on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky. And no one else is on Blue Sky yet. It's kind of. I had a conversation with Neil Gaiman on Blue Sky because he's basically the only person I'm following, but I'm sure more people will show up. And you can also follow at Rossifari Pod on TikTok, or you can email them to me, rossifaripod@gmail.com, and I'll say your name at the end of the episode. Speaking of which, I want to say happy wedding weekend to Kim Cooley. Kim Cooley is one of the people who contributes so much each week that I don't even erase her name. So every week I have this list of the stories as they come in and stuff. And anytime someone sends me a story, I make sure I put their name at the bottom on the list. But there are a few people who I never even take off because they always contribute. I know it's coming. It's just a given. It saves me time. And Kim Cooley is one of those amazing contributors who has really helped this Zoo News part of the podcast pop off. And she's getting married this weekend. So Kim, congratulations. I'm sure it will be an amazing time. And I'm just so happy for you. And for the fact that you still sent me multiple articles this week while preparing for your wedding. You're a little crazy, and I like it. So congratulations. All right, y'all. I think that's enough of a life update. So without further ado, let's get to it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ow, that's a funky monkey. Tree kangaroo. Or a binturong.
It's Zoo News.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So we are going to start, as we've been doing lately, with our births and deaths. But in this case, we're going to talk about a birth and a death, not of animal that. Well, anyway, you'll hear what I'm talking about here. So the Cleveland MetroParks Zoo put out a press release talking about the fact that within minutes of each other, they lost and gained an iconic animal at their zoo. The zoo announced the passing of Willie, who was their male elephant. Now, Willie was a gorgeous African elephant. He had one tusk, and he's just this iconic animal. Anytime you went to the Cleveland Zoo, you knew that you were going to see Willie, and he was just impressive. He was 11 feet tall at his shoulder and weighed over 13,000 pounds. And at 44 years of age, he was also one of the oldest elephants in the AZA. The median male life expectancy of an African elephant is 24 years. So 44, pretty darn impressive. And unfortunately, he had a lot of long-term health conditions over the past few years, and the team realized that his quality of life was no longer what it needed to be, and so they made the decision to euthanize. Now, you know, all euthanasias are hard, but losing an iconic animal that is so smart and that they were so able to form actual relationships with made this a particularly challenging time, which is what made it kind of crazy when at the same time, up in the primate section, a brand new baby gorilla was born. Literally within minutes of each other. The mom was Kebi Moyo, and the dad was Mokolo, and this is only the second time that there has been a gorilla born at the zoo in the entire 141 years of its existence. So this is a really, really big deal. The gorilla troop is not going to be on exhibit for a while as the baby and mom adapt to life together and to the new troop dynamic. However, the bigger story here isn't that there is another, gorilla at the Cleveland MetroParks Zoo, although that's really cool, but it's that this happened within minutes of each other. And I love that Cleveland MetroParks Zoo made a point of saying that and making a big deal of it and saying, hey, this all happened at once. Our hearts were like breaking and filling with joy at the same time. And our veterinary team had to worry about saying goodbye to this animal and doing it with dignity and respect and making sure that all of the numbers are right and everything, Euthanizing an elephant is not euthanizing a dog, while at the same time also keeping an eye on the birth of a brand new gorilla. You know, the teams could see each other mourning and celebrating, and a lot of the keepers know both of those animals because you don't just know the animals on your string. So they were feeling this intense anguish and joy at the same time. And I just think it's a lot. And I think it's such a great example of the challenges and also the amazing emotional roller coaster that being in this field can be. So sending love and light and condolences and joyful thoughts and just all the things to the team at the Cleveland MetroParks Zoo. All right. So a quick little this is how the sausage gets made moment. So I recorded all of the episode that you just heard before going and doing our opening performance of $1 Million Quartet. And then I got back to the housing and went to record. And it turned out that my buddy Michael had an audition that he didn't even know was an audition out in the living room. So I was about to hit record, and all of a sudden he was reciting lines to director and music director and stuff on Zoom. So now that's over. So now I get to be the loud one and he gets to be the quiet one. And that is the life of an itinerant musician and actor. Anyway, moving on with birds. We have a really, really interesting one at the Columbus Zoo. And I've actually been following this story from some friends behind the scenes there who know what's going on for the last couple days. And I was so excited to see that they announced it in time for me to drop it into Zoo News. We are, of course, announcing the birth of a brand new baby gorilla, a gorillet. At the Columbus Zoo. And there's a truly, truly crazy story behind this one. First of all, the keepers had no idea that the gorilla mother was pregnant. That's because they thought she was a dude. There's no other way to put it. The baby is a female, and the mother they thought was a male. And it's extra interesting to me to hear that, because gorilla society is set up in a way where gender matters or sex matters. And the fact that they were not able to tell by how this individual interacted with their troop is really fascinating to me. And I can't wait to find out more from talking to people about how it's possible to be wrong about the sex of a gorilla. This has only been recorded as happening one other time in the history of gorillas in captivity. And actually, it's kind of interesting that the Columbus Zoo was the first zoo in the world to actually have the birth of a baby gorilla happen way back in December 1956. So this is a zoo that is very, very aware of gorilla births and how to do that. And yet they just had what they thought was a male give birth at the zoo. So very interesting, very cool. The indoor gorilla facility will be opening up on the 21st, the day that this episode drops, and you can go see this truly kind of miraculous baby gorilla and mom. And that brings us to some other really fun births. We all know that it is panda birthing season, so let's just get to it. The John Ball Zoo has announced the birth of a litter of panda cubs. The announcement didn't say how many there are. Most likely it's 2. Sometimes there are 3, and sometimes even just 1, but they pluralized, so I'm guessing not 1. But so John Ball has new red pandas. Also, there's a new single red panda cub at the Lee Richardson Zoo and a single red panda cub at the West Midland Safari Park. So all these new little pandlets keep popping out and bringing me lots and lots of joy. Congrats to all the facilities that have new pandlets. We have a couple of other notable births this week, including some emperor geese at the Staten Island Zoo, who have had a new little gosling, or as I like to say, gooselet. And that's always really exciting to see the birth of a species that you don't see in a lot of facilities. And we've mentioned a bunch of bongo births recently, and now we get to add another one to the list, as there is a female bongo calf, or bonglet, at the Jacksonville Zoo. Always love to see a friend of the pod having a cool, exciting birth. So congrats to the Jacksonville Zoo. And then the Cleveland MetroParks Zoo has announced the birth of some goatlets. I know, it's kids, but I have too much fun with this, y'all. And the goatlets are actually already visible and on exhibit, and there are 4 of them. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go and hang out with goatlets, I highly recommend that you go check out the goatlets at the Cleveland MetroParks Zoo, because I'm not kidding. It's a lot of fun to hang out with those. And then just 2 more quick births here. We've got some new dwarf monglets at the Living Desert, and new flamingo chicks at Riverbanks Zoo. And if you haven't seen flaminglets yet, they look really different than their adult counterparts because they don't actually have the same coloration. So go check out some social media pics, or maybe even go and visit Riverbanks Zoo. And that brings us to our deaths for the week, and we start off with our friends at the Cape May County Zoo, who this week said goodbye to a beloved Linnaeus two-toed sloth named Matilda, who commonly went by Tilly. Now, Tilly was an ambassador animal at the zoo and was absolutely beloved. They actually raised over $5,000 for wild sloth conservation by having people meet Tilly, and the education and zoo staff in general really loved her. Unfortunately, she passed away suddenly from an illness known as gastric dilatation volvulus, or GDV. This is a disease that sadly cannot be detected by any normal means, and there are no obvious symptoms. So it's really heartbreaking, especially because it was so unexpected. So sending love to the team at Cape May County Zoo. Cameron Park Zoo has announced the death of Penelope, the zoo's adult female Maasai giraffe. This is another one of those stories where she became ill kind of late in the night, and the zoo vet staff tried desperately to work with her, but she passed away early in the morning. She was 10 years old and went to Cameron Park Zoo from the San Diego Zoo, and they have performed a necropsy, but it takes weeks to get the results back, and they're not really sure what happened yet. So very sad, and it's always so extra heartbreaking when there are these sudden losses. So sending love to everyone at Cameron Park Zoo. And then last but not least, we have a death in the Project Chimps family. Jill, who was known affectionately as Jilly Beans by her team, was a high-ranking member of the Golden Girls troupe at Project Chimps, and was just a lot of fun. Her status gave her the privilege of being the only chimp in the group capable of stealing food from anyone without serious repercussions, and that was something that she took full advantage of. She was quite the goober, had a lot of respect, and was very much loved by her care team, and will be very, very missed. So sending love to the Project Chimps team. All right. So y'all, Arizona just broke its record for the most days in a row with 110 degree plus weather. It has been 19 straight days over that temperature, which is beyond insane, and even though Arizona is the most drastic example, the truth is it is hot everywhere, y'all. We are experiencing record temperatures. This is very likely to be the hottest year on record ever. Which this could all go into conservation news too, because, I mean, let's be honest here, global warming, y'all. Yeah, it's a thing. Climate change is real. But I'm specifically mentioning it here in zoo news because zoos are having to make some serious accommodations to keep their animals safe and healthy during this record heat. Zoos are closing earlier. They're coming up with all kinds of ice-based enrichment. There's just a whole lot going on that is making life harder for zookeepers. And also, even though it is very possible to keep animals inside in air conditioning and stuff like that, you know who doesn't get to stay inside? It's the keepers. They still have to go clean the yards. They still have to go do the thing always. So I just want to give a shout out to all of the keepers and aquarists and everybody. Well, okay, to be fair, most aquarists are inside, but sometimes you have like pinniped trainers and stuff that are outside. So yeah, for all of the keepers and aquarists and vets and everybody everywhere who is doing this incredibly hard, incredibly physical work under the hottest circumstances in recorded history, thank you. Thank you very much. And I want y'all to think about those people as you're experiencing your own record heat. I got to tell y'all, I mentioned at the beginning of this that I have visited 3 zoos recently with more to come. And I'm walking away from these zoos dripping. And I'm just walking around taking pictures, y'all. So keepers, y'all really rock. But hey, let's say you're like me and you really, really, really want to see some red pandas. Maybe even see a red panda cub. But you're not like me in that you're not going to go out in 90+ degree heat and get soaked and dehydrated just to make that happen. Well, the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance has got you. They have officially introduced a brand new red Panda Cam that you can watch at sdzwa.org/redpandacam. And it is showing the exhibit with Lucas and Adira and Adira's baby. So sometimes you can see Lucas being a gooper and running around and playing like Lucas does. And yes, sometimes you can see Mama Adira and her little cub who likes to stretch and be all adorable and cub-like on display in real time on your computer. So you should probably quit your job and watch that forever. On a more serious note, the Toronto Zoo has joined with World Animal Protection Canada to reveal a report card of Canada's zoo regulations, highlighting in particular the fact that Ontario, where the Toronto Zoo is located, has somewhere between weak and non-existent regulations and enforcement when it comes to the use of wild animals for public display. Basically, anybody can own a zoo in Ontario. Ontario ranks dead last for not having any provincial zoo licensing system, permit system for non-native species, public safety and security standards, nor even a requirement for liability insurance for zoo operators. That's nothing. Literally, I could go open a zoo tomorrow. I should not go open a zoo tomorrow. Because of this complete lack of regulation, Ontario has the largest number of roadside zoos in Canada, and yet no actual official tracking of how many of these facilities exist, or even the types of animals they house. I gotta admit, I love the Toronto Zoo, and I spend a lot of time in Ontario because of that, and I've just never been aware of the fact that there are apparently just a ton of roadside zoos up in that area. It kind of blows my mind, and I'm pretty glad I didn't know it. I love that the Toronto Zoo is teaming up with other organizations to fight roadside zoos. I think that's a beautiful thing, but I had no idea that Ontario was the wild, wild west when it comes to owning zoos. On a side note, if you're listening to this, no. Do not go open a zoo in Ontario. Thank you. The Roger Williams Park Zoo has announced that the red wolf pups that we announced on here recently now have names. The male is Sentinel and the female is Sabine. And I don't know if Sabine was named after Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels and the upcoming Ahsoka series, but I'm assuming that Sabine was named after Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels and the upcoming Ahsoka series. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you have any interest in Star Wars at all, I highly recommend you go check out Star Wars Rebels. It is incredible. It is my favorite Star Wars. We have gone wildly, wildly off topic here, but you know, it's me. Maritime Aquarium in Connecticut has announced the opening of a new exhibit, which is a sturgeon touch tank, where you can get an up-close encounter with Atlantic sturgeon, which is a species that has existed for over 200 million years. So these fish were actually around before dinosaurs. Now, I need to be clear here, not these actual fish. They're not that old. But it's a really interesting look at prehistoric times through a touch tank, an interactive exhibit. Gotta love it. Next, we have two quick stories out of Franklin Park Zoo up in Boston. First of which is a follow-up to a story we talked about before. Kamaya, one of the lions who had been experiencing some sickness and they weren't really sure exactly what was up, is doing well and is actually back on exhibit in the lion habitat alongside his brother Denari. And they are playing, doing their enrichment together, and of course, roaring loudly as they like to do. So it's nice to see that the vet team was able to work with this lion and overcome the issue there and get him back on exhibit. Always love to see that kind of thing. And then going along with that story, if you would like to go and see this lion back on exhibit, well, a new seasonal shuttle service has just launched at the Franklin Park Zoo. It runs every weekend through Labor Day, and it is a complimentary shuttle service that travels to and from the Forest Hills MBTA station to the giraffe entrance at Franklin Park Zoo, which is roughly a 1.5 mile journey. Now, this is especially cool because getting to Franklin Park Zoo with public transportation was not particularly easy before this shuttle, and the fact that it is a free shuttle should really help more low-income people be able to go and attend the zoo, which is always a wonderful thing. So I think this is a really nice addition. I'll tell you, the last time I was in Boston, I was looking at my various options to get to Franklin Park Zoo, and honestly, I decided that the best thing to do was just walk like 2 miles to get there, which I kind of ended up regretting. It was through an interesting part of town, and there weren't always sidewalks and stuff. But yeah, there was not just a way to hop onto public transportation easily, and the Uber at the time had like double surge charging, and I didn't want to go broke going to the zoo, so I walked, and it was fine, I guess. But this is nice. Smithsonian's National Zoo in Washington, D.C. has welcomed Jojo, a blind juvenile gray seal, Ronin, a juvenile sea lion with eating difficulties, and Juniper, a beaver that's imprinted on humans, into their care. All three of these animals are living on American Trail, and all three of them have a lot of special needs, so it really shows how absolutely incredible the keepers are there to be able to adapt to all of these amazing new animals that they are having to take care of. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Last week, we talked about how some zoos and aquariums in Connecticut were available to people to go to for free, as well as museums and stuff. And now there is an organization in Massachusetts that is doing the same thing. This is known as the Highland Street Foundation, and they are making a bunch of museums and zoos and such free for low-income people in August, which is really, really cool. This is known as their annual August Adventures experience, and you can go to the Children's Museum of Greater Fall River, the New Bedford Whaling Museum, Falmouth Museums on the Green, Battleship Cove, Children's Museum of Easton, the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, Buttonwood Park Zoo, Cape Cod Art Museum, and Patriots Hall of Fame, all on different days in August. So if you're interested, make sure you go ahead and check out the Highland Street Foundation and see when you can go check out those museums, and especially the zoo. All right, y'all. This next story is definitely a heartbreaker. The Alligator and Wildlife Discovery Center, which was a zoo in Florida, had a major fire breakout and they lost most of their animals. Now, the police have investigated the fire and think there is absolutely no reason to believe there was any foul play or anything like that. But most of the animals at the zoo died. And on their Facebook page, they posted a thing that just said, "We suffered from a tragic fire last night. Nearly all of the animals are gone. We are devastated." And the responses were heartbreaking. This is one of those things where I'm like, maybe stay away from this. Or maybe if you need a good cry, go check it out. It's not what you think. It's not anti-captivity people. It's not people being rude. But apparently, this is one of those smaller facilities where people really go a lot and love the animals and get to know the animals. And so along with a bunch of people posting the standard, "I'm so sorry, oh my God" kind of thing, a whole bunch of people were posting pictures of different individual animals that were their favorites and asking if they were okay by name. I always say that, it's really important for zoos to connect people to animals through their names, help them understand their personalities, who they are, all that stuff. And it's clear to me that the Alligator and Wildlife Discovery Center did this. And the owner actually went through and responded to all of these things, telling people who lived, who died, thanking them for posting pictures, sharing stories about some of the animals that they saw that maybe didn't make it, and explaining what they saw or that they were able to pet their bodies and say goodbye. It is a heck of a read, and I don't know this facility. I know nothing about it. But what I do know is that this is an absolute tragedy, and the owner is devastated, and the people who went there are devastated, and it's just an insanely large loss of life, and it absolutely breaks my heart to share this story with y'all. But I hope that the owner and the team there are able to overcome this tragedy in time. And I super duper do not want to end Zoo News on a bad, sad note. So I'm going to tell a lovely and mildly benign story, which is that the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens is the world's newest level 4 accredited ArbNet Arboretum. So I know that I joke around on this podcast a lot and say that animals matter and plants suck and all that stuff. I do. But obviously, it's not just the Cincinnati Zoo. It's the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden. And the work that they do on the plants at that facility is absolutely incredible. And you actually may remember in my interview with Dr. Erin Curry from Crew at the Cincinnati Zoo, she very specifically said that I need to talk to somebody on the plants team at Crew because they do all kinds of amazing work. And actually, one of the reasons that they were given this accreditation, which is the highest level that you can achieve, is because of what Crew does to propagate and preserve plant and tree species, most notably oaks. So the research helps as much as all the amazing work that they do on the grounds. So congratulations to the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens, I know I don't say it often, for reaching this absolutely incredible level of accreditation in an area that, honestly, as zoo fans, a lot of us probably don't even ever think about.
Conservation! Conservation! News time! Oh, yeah!
Earlier this week, a new kakapo population has been released at Sanctuary Mountain. That is the first time that kakapo have been living on mainland New Zealand in almost 4 full decades. Kakapo Recovery is an absolutely amazing conservation organization, and this reintroduction is such a beautiful thing and such an absolutely huge deal. And speaking of huge deals. You all know about the Northern White Rhino Rescue Project. We've talked about it on here a ton, where there are embryos being put together and frozen, and eventually we're hoping to have surrogate moms, and then we can maybe save the Northern White Rhino population, which is currently 2 females. So it turns out that there are 5 new embryos and new surrogate mothers that have been added to the rescue project. Now, it's been 4 years since the start of the project to save the northern white rhino from extinction, and the Biorescue Consortium has made significant progress towards its ultimate goal. 29 northern white rhino embryos have been created and cryopreserved, ready for future transfer to a surrogate mother. And in May, 18 eggs were collected from the female Fatu to create these 5 new embryos, which is the largest number of embryos that has ever been created at a single time. So, they're getting better at this, y'all. This is really exciting news, and I cannot wait to see this species on the rebound. It's so great to be able to start conservation news with a couple of really positive stories. But as is always the case, humans come in and mess it all up. Recently, humans have taken to illegally harassing manatees at Indian Shores Beach, especially enjoying messing with them while they are trying to mate. That's right, y'all. People are messing with an endangered species that is trying to actively reproduce. I hate everyone. The good news is that a bunch of organizations have come out and reminded people that A, this is illegal, and B, to stop it because doing it sucks. So hopefully that will have an impact because, again, people are just harassing a species that is dying off as they try to mate. It's honestly mind-blowing. Okay, on a side note here, manatees are actually only listed as vulnerable right now, but because of the die-offs in the last 2 years, it's very possible that they do get listed as endangered. And also, even if they're not at all anything on the list, why do you mess with mating animals? It's just stupid. But yeah, I did say the wrong thing in my rant there, and I just wanted to correct it quickly. They are vulnerable, but they'll be more freaking vulnerable and even more, in danger, if not endangered, if people mess with them when they're mating. Anyway, moving on. All right, so this next story is, again, kind of crazy. So, the whole lick toads get high thing, it's kind of a bit of a, let's call it an old wives' tale, but is also true. And by that, what I mean is you can't just lick a random toad and get high or trip, really, because its psychoactive responses are what's going to happen. But there is a toad known as the Sonoran desert toad that does actually have this effect. They have 5-MeO-DMT, which is a powerful psychotropic compound that is in their bodies. And it gets extra interesting because not only can you use this to trip, but you can also use it for possible treatment for depression and anxiety. So people are increasingly catching this toad, frequently through illegal poaching, both for recreation and profit, as well as it being caught legally more for research. So this is a big problem, especially when there is already an alternative synthetic version of the drug in existence. But this is just another example of people looking at a thing and thinking, hey, here's a toad. Don't really care that the populations are shrinking quickly because, whatever. At the end of the day, we can get high. And honestly, that's what most of the poachers are going for. It's not like poachers are grabbing this stuff and selling it to researchers who are doing great ethical research into depression and anxiety. So just sad, but also cool that this drug exists and that we're able to research the synthetic form of it. Okay, back to some happy news. The white-tailed eagle is a bird that was in really, really big trouble and needed a reintroduction program in England recently. And so there were 25 eagles that were released onto the Isle of Wight. And now, for the first time in 240 years, a white-tailed eagle chick, eaglet. Oh, that's actually a thing. That wasn't as funny as... Anyway, a white-tailed eaglet has been born in England from this released population. So a huge conservation win happening in England. Oh my gosh, I got so excited about eaglet and then realized it was the real thing, and I got so sad for a second, y'all. But it's okay, because it's a good conservation win, so we're happy again. All right, so one question that conservationists constantly have to answer is, how do you figure out what an animal needs in the wild when it's an animal that doesn't particularly want to be seen in the wild? Like, say, a jaguar, which is really good at both camouflage and stealth and makes it pretty darn hard to research. Well, it turns out that you can study their poop. A team of researchers led by the University of Cincinnati has applied something called isotopic analysis to jaguar poop and are able to use the analysis to actually figure out the habitat needs of the jaguars, specifically in a preserve in Belize. So this is actually the first time that this non-invasive technique for studying what landscape use and conservation needs of wildlife are. So this is a really big deal. Now, you may be wondering, if jaguars are hard to find, then how do you find their poop? Well, you guessed it, or maybe you didn't. I don't know. I don't know you. But researchers used scat detecting dogs, in this case, 2 of them named Billy and Bruiser, to find the evidence left behind by the jaguars, and by the evidence, I mean the poop. They were able to tell jaguar poop from the poop of other animals in the reserve, including pumas, margays, ocelots, and jaguarundus. Yeah. So they did a really great job. They were able to find the proper poop, and then they were able to figure out from that poop what these animals need to thrive. So now you can start to work on a conservation project for jaguars, knowing exactly what they need without even seeing or bothering a single jaguar. Huge conservation win. Also, for those 2 dogs, you're such a good puppy. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. It's a good job, puppy. And then last but not least in conservation news, a friendly reminder to everybody who listens who likes to go out into the wilderness. The Yellowstone park rangers have recently started actually asking people to knock down rock cairns if they see them. Now, if you're not sure what that is, this is a trend that a lot of hikers and other people who like to go out into the wild have right now, where they take rocks and stack them into really pretty little towers. They're very artistic and they're very nice. And I'm not going to lie. When you're out hiking and you see one, especially one that's really well done, it can be really cool. It's kind of pretty. However, it's really disruptive to wildlife. For starters, there's a lot of small wildlife, like bugs and stuff, that literally make their lives under these rocks. And if you're picking them up and stacking them, you are destroying the microenvironment that these bugs live in. You are literally, in some cases, killing these animals. You are making them homeless and making them easier for predators to find and all that stuff. But then beyond that, the rangers at Yellowstone are noticing that some of their larger wildlife is staying away from areas where cairns are showing up because they can sense that something is wrong, something is different. They're seeing something that they don't really know what it is, and maybe even associating it with humans being in the area. So they're not using all of their natural environment and all of their normal hunting ground, or, if they're a prey animal, the area where they hide from predators and stuff like that. So the official recommendation is A, don't make them, and B, if you see them, knock them down so that it looks more natural again. Insects can move back in under the rocks, and the larger animals won't see them and freak out. And I'm going to take this a step further and say also, let's be careful about not doing the trends right now, like painting rocks because you're picking them up and painting them and making them look different and then putting them in a different place. Just nature's good enough. We actually weirdly do not need to improve nature with our own artistic skills. Nature's got this one, y'all. So let's just leave it alone. Or to put it another way, let's I don't know, conserve nature. While fishing recently, an 11-year-old boy caught a pacu in a pond in Oklahoma. Now, what is a pacu, you ask? Well, it is a fish that is from South America and is a relative of the piranha, and it has teeth that are molar-like and look like human teeth. It's really freaky looking, y'all. This is obviously a pet that was probably too hard to take care of, and so was released into the wild, into this pond. And this boy caught it and then ended up re-releasing it. But after talking to game wardens, they found out it's, an invasive species. This is not an animal that you want in this pond. And so the boy has actually kind of been trying to catch it again, and it's kind of become his mission. And the hope is that he will catch it, and they will mount it on the wall with its teeth showing, kind of smiling at him. It's a little weird in my book, but I say that with no judgment. We are all weird in our own ways. And again, you don't want invasive species to stick around. So this is okay. This is not some sad story where this kid's trying to catch this rare fish. That fish should not be there. And it's very sad that that fish is there and may end up dying this way. But it is honestly for the best. Weirdly, not the first pacu that has ever been caught in Oklahoma. It happens every couple years. So it seems like some people take these in as pets when they are smaller, and then when they get a little bit larger, they decide they need to release them. But there is the risk that if they start mating and, there are multiples in the same pond or whatever, you could have a pacu outbreak. And again, they're related to piranhas. So, there could be all kinds of weirdness that would happen with that, especially since the teeth really do look human-like. It's really freaky, y'all. Taking it back to Yellowstone for a minute, a woman was recently gored by a bison there. No one is saying if she had been harassing the animal or got too close to it, or if, the animal was just attacking. No real information is out there right now, but it is a nice friendly reminder that if you're spending time in the wilderness, you have to give wild animals a wide berth, even if they look really cool and you really want to hang out with them. And I need to remind myself of this every time I'm in the wild. On a side note, it's very possible that the bison merely saw the woman building a rock cairn and was like, I must defend my territory. No, I'm kidding. I'm probably kidding. And then last but not least, I'm going to do a public service announcement. I'm going to help the Pennsylvania State Police because they are looking for the owner of a bull that was found in Lawrence County, Pennsylvania, along Old Pittsburgh Road in Wayne Township. So if you have lost your bull or know somebody who has lost their bull, you can reach out to the state police at 724-598-2211 and go get your bull back. Now, I want y'all to go check right now. Go on out to your barns and check and make sure that you still have your bulls there. Seriously, Pennsylvania, what are you doing? All right, and that brings us to your animal holidays for the week. So it is still July, which is Parks and Recreation Month, Plastic Free July, National Bison Month, try not to get gored, and Wild About Wildlife Month. And this Saturday is the end of both Coral Reef Awareness Week and National Zookeeper Week. Although I will remind you all that if you're enjoying all of the National Zookeeper Week content that you are seeing all over social media this past week, well, every single week is National Zookeeper Week on Rossifari. So make sure you share that with any of your friends who are enjoying that additional content that you're seeing right now. Now, for your individual days, the 21st is Andean Bear Day, the 22nd is Vaquita Day, and also launches Moth Week. And then the 26th is International Mangrove Conservation Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, so there you have it, folks. Another week of Rossifari Zoo news is done, and that's a good thing because I have to go play another show soon. So before I go do that, I'd like to remind y'all that you can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone who is a patron, especially my red panda level patrons, Laura Schenk, Kristen Dickey, and Stephen Williamson. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed stories to this week's episode, including Anya Keene, Colleen Lenahan, Kim Cooley, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Poche, Elizabeth Dunlevy, Marianne Rossi, Jay Meredith, Laura Schenk, Dylan Hoy, Emily Rockbuck, Ali Malensky, Karen Musklow, Nora Beardsley, and Jacob Zinn. Thank you all so much for your contributions to this week's episode. And remember, friends, the words newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. Gastric dilation volvulus. Why did I try that? Well, a new seasonal shuttle service has just launched. Launched is not the word.